Good morning. Welcome to the September meeting of the Somerville Tree Protection Board. First order of business is to approve the last 2 months' meetings minutes. Was there any discussion?
Yep, move to approve. Second.
Minutes are approved. The first order of business, I would like to change the order of the agenda such that 306 South Richardson is last. There are not a large number of individuals applying here today, but I feel that this issue will probably take longer than any of the others. So if that is all right, I would like to move that we change the order of the agenda such that 306 South Richardson is the final entry.
Second.
All those opposed to the motion say aye. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. So that would make the first order of business (208) East 6 South Street. You can if you wish. We've been to the house and understand the situation.
Yeah, I'm looking to widen my driveway and put a parking lot in for an ADU. And the one pine tree is right in the way to put the parking lot in.
Okay, I understand that discussion was made that you were willing to mitigate for the absence of that tree. Is that correct?
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we looked at every possibility of saving trees there, and there's just the pine tree in question is pretty large, and at first glance it appears to be healthy, but on studying the canopy and the branch attachments, and in the central leader there seems to be about a 6-foot long stretch of darker material, which I think is decayed wood. So consequently, I think that tree needs to be removed, and the other requests are also in line with the guidelines of the town. So I move to approve the removals as requested by the applicant.
Any other comments?
I think initially wasn't the live oak also requested for removal, but we talked about that and it's just going to be trimmed on. And was that part of the initial request? I'm not wrong about it. I don't have it in front of me.
The live oak was not part of the original request. It was my recollection.
Okay.
You weren't asking for the live oak to be removed.
No, there's one, another oak that overhangs and it's got a couple dead branches on it that I'm gonna.
But just,
Trim it.
yeah, just trim it, clean it up.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm good with removal on the pine tree.
Had a second?
Second.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You may remove the tree.
Thank you.
214 Smythe Drive. A representative here for them? I didn't see the tree. Would you go ahead and describe it?
Yeah, it's the tree in question is incredibly close to the driveway and obviously causing damage to the driveway. And ordinarily we would look to see if root pruning was possible, but the tree is so close here that root pruning is not going to solve the problem without putting the tree at further risk. So I move to allow removal of that tree.
I would second that as well.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The tree gets removed, then you'll notify them that I sent. Okay, next item of business from memory is 725 Central Avenue.
Morning.
Morning. Morning.
Thank you for the time here today. We have altered our plan from the original. We are tree people, so we do understand, what the trees mean here, and we would like to work with you guys. Um, we decided to keep the large tree in the front, the left grand oak. We're removing the whole building. We're not going to take down the tree to put in the building. And we would like to try to make this grand tree a focal point of the community. So the idea now, this was the original plan. There was an updated plan that we sent over Thursday, Friday last week, I believe, which removes that first building on the left-hand side. And then some of the parking was a little bit altered. The idea is to, make this, make that area like a people place and basically have some seating and some picnic tables there. And at one point, we were even talking about transplanting the tree. We had talked to a couple different companies who transplant. They've done it in the general area. And then after speaking with them and talking to our engineers and different people, we decided to just leave the tree and make it a focal point of the community. Our development is going to be for small local businesses. It's local friendly. We want to have like mom and pop shops there. We want to build this for the local community and believe that this will be a terrific local asset. Additional benefit to the town will also be, we're also proposing the expansion of a new pump station that will expand the treatment capacity because there's an antiquated current pump station. So we were going to take a parcel of our property and donate it to the town so they could put a brand new pump station in for future expansion. And the project needs to work for the community as well as be economically feasible for development for us as well. Do you guys have any questions?
Yes. First, when I had trouble finding the place, my phone kept telling me to turn into the parking lot. I said, what parking lot? Behind Lighthouse Craft Shop. Again, this is not totally part of our purview, but I was wondering about what the plan was for your entry and exit of that property. That's going to put sort of a pinch on an already very busy road, but I'm sure you've dealt with this with DRB and others, so I won't dwell on it. But is it the same driveway that's going to be the access to the property?
Yeah, so it's on the left-hand side if you look at the plan there, of the community. So that's Central Ave there, and on the left-hand side, it's how big is it? 75 feet wide, I believe. Yeah, I think it's 75 feet, something like that, approximately offhand. So it is wide enough and big enough. It just, when the trees are there, the grass is very tall there, it just doesn't look like, it can
Right.
be a totally different view of once it's cleared and in a better space.
Well, I'm pleased that the combination was made for that grand oak.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, I don't think that ever was going to come down under the circumstances.
We didn't want to take it down. We were just going to go to transplant it. And
Well,
there's,
that's quite a chore. That's a tall order.
Sure.
Um,
But we'd like to make it a focal point, and make it.
well, it's
Something.
appropriate. I feel there's a lot of other trees that don't need to come down that are here. And I know there's been some changes. I'm not sure that more can't be made. But additionally, I'd like to know, has DRB had a chance to go over this yet, the second application?
Yeah, our meeting is the 25th, 26th, I believe, in 2-3 weeks.
Okay.
So we will have a presentation at that time. But basically what we're looking at is keeping the grand tree on the first one on the left, and then there's 2 trees that are essentially in the middle of the road. So we're proposing, to hopefully take those down. And then the ones in the back, you see the 2 big ones in the back, we were looking to have them pruned, and we have our arborist here that can explain how we would prune them back so that we can keep the trees and then build the buildings in front of the trees so that, give them a chance to live and be, viable.
There was a number of trees removed. Again, I know it's probably a dog hair thicket in a way on the right-hand side of the drawing as I look at it. And then bottom left, there's a number of trees that also seem to be needing to be removed. We just got this, so I haven't had the chance to look at
Okay,
this.
sure.
I mean, in get the color scheme in my mind. Oh, I think red is pretty obvious.
Yeah.
So, and I know that one of the stipulations by DRB was in that first meeting to that there was excessive tree cutting for the
Yeah.
case. So my feeling is I'm encouraged, but I think some more discussion may have to come to bear with DRB and then come visit us again, but
Sure.
we're certainly willing to work with it. We just, again, we're looking to conserve as much as possible. It's reasonable, and functional in the way of trees for the town. Any other comments?
No, I think you've expressed it well. But I do have a question. Which are the two trees you said that were in the middle of the road that need to come down?
So, yeah, right there. There's a couple of trees right there. That's really the main, avenue.
Yeah, but which one's on this plan? Is it this one and this one?
Somebody's sort of circling around
He's
it.
got it in a
I'm not sure
cursor.
who's doing that.
I
Yeah.
can't see
It's
it.
on your
up there.
screen.
So that's, the main drag of the whole development. So that's right in the middle, of the community, basically. So those right there would not make this project, if we can't go any further than that, that would not make this project economically feasible or work here,
Okay.
So our idea, if I could just say again, is the first tree on the left, which is the 49-inch grand oak. That one's gonna say, we're proposing to take out the middle ones that you were circling. And then you see the two in the back on the top.
Yeah.
We can, our arborist had actually suggested that we could prune the roots back to keep those.
Okay.
So we really do want to keep what we can, but unfortunately for all of us, the ones that are right in the middle, of the road, that's, literally in the middle of the community, that's access. We could potentially do something on the right-hand side by where the dumpster is. Some of those trees we could probably keep, if we needed to, they're not even A's, they might be B's and C's there. So we could talk about something there, but essentially for this project to move forward, if those trees in the middle cannot be removed, they're 20 inches or so, 20 something inch, right? I'm not sure exactly, 20 in the 20s. So they're not, huge, but they are A grade. So we understand, but that's really like the crux of where we are. Without that, we can't move forward.
Well, I understand the ones in the middle of the road,
Yeah.
and I wasn't quite sure which ones you were talking
Sure.
about.
Sure.
That makes sense. Well, since we're gonna have to meet again,
Okay.
and you've got to go to DRB again. What I would like to see is for you to look at it very closely and, as you said, see which ones you can save anymore. Save as many as you can, and then we can revisit it and see what we can do. And that'll give us time to visit the site, which we haven't been able to do.
That's right. We haven't been there yet, so.
Oh, really? We thought you
Well,
guys were
once
there
we-
last
well, we
week.
heard the DRB can't, rejected the project as was. So we didn't know what trees to look at that were marked or not marked or whatever. So
Oh,
we really,
okay.
really couldn't have accomplished anything by a visit.
Okay.
So
Okay.
if there's sufficient marking, and that's tough getting in there, it's sort of a dog-hair thicket on the edge, but any marking for us when we visit would be helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, any building lines you can string out or even paint so that we get a good
Just
idea of
corners.
what's going on. That's
Corner.
helpful to us.
Yeah, what I think we can do is we could probably just send somebody in there to sort of clean up, there's a lot of weeds, there's a lot of
Yes.
little brush, we can kind of get rid of the brush and all that. When would you guys be planning to go there so that we can try to get that done
It
before
would be Wednesday of next month, the first
first Wednesday.
Wednesday of next month.
first, when, so in like 3 weeks or so? Okay.
Yes,
Okay, we can make some calls and see if we could try to get something
okay.
done prior to that. That should be fine.
I just want to add one note. You mentioned the trees on the left-hand side. They're not great graded trees, but it's also an area for, we got to put stormwater someplace. So
Yes,
the theory is that if we can we're trying to do underground storage, and be able to plant some things back that are in better condition. But that's those areas on the left, I think you might have been referring to.
so, yeah, it is probably, and that's planned for not a pond, but for underground storage.
Yes, sir. We don't think ponds are going to work, but
Hmm.
there's not going to be enough storage.
Right, there's space, literally. Yeah.
What would also be helpful for us is that if you have an arborist on contract already, is that what I'm?
He's actually here. You could
Good.
ask any question you like.
No, I don't have any questions today, but it would be great to see a management plan of those trees whose root zone is going to be encroached on, to see how the applicants can handle that and help to have those trees survive over long term.
We can definitely do that. One of the challenging things with this property is the shape. And it has a large number of trees on it, and the shape and the way it's laid out really are confining as far as any use of the property. So, with the saving of the large live oak and then the ones in the back, from looking at it from a tree protection standpoint, those are some of the better trees on the site that still allow some use of the property. And I think they've done, with the revised plan, they've done a good job trying to accommodate what they heard at the last meeting to try to make this work.
I agree. No, it's a great attempt. And if you would just assist them, look at it real close and see what you think can
Can do that.
can be saved. Anything we can save, even if it's not, even if it's not a pretty tree, it may be serving the environment. So we'll need to think about that as well.
So the ones on the very end on the right, we could probably save some of those, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you can see the density, so, I mean, I realize there needs to be
Yeah.
some work in
Yeah.
there.
I think that could be, we might lose some parking, but I think that's okay.
Yeah, and also just from my standpoint, I hadn't been to the site either, and as far as bringing any fill in there or grading, is that going to be a problem at this site?
It's a very flat site.
It is okay.
It is flat, and Jim can speak about what we can do to.
We haven't quite gotten that for this, the balance of seeing what trees we can take down versus the fill.
Okay.
But it's flat. It's flat. We're gonna, there's.
How about elevation?
I
though?
believe we were told that there's about 3 feet of elevation difference from back to front, something like that,
Okay,
just a couple of feet. So it's very, very flat.
all right. And what about utilities, electrical? Is that going to be underground? Is it going to be overhead?
Underground. Yeah.
All right.
We
just
want to
kinda
do
like-
everything underground.
All right, just kind of like to have an idea where that's going to run through the property. Is it going to affect any of the trees that we're going to try to save?
I think the idea here, if you see the buildings are all off the main road, the main drag, we'll call it.
Mhm.
So the utilities would run right.
Right
under the
straight
road.
down the
So I
middle.
think it would be, and we would just tie off into each building.
And also, what's on the back side of the property?
On the backside.
Yeah, is it just more trees or is it a development back there?
So if you're looking at it, this way to the right-hand side where we're talking about where the dumpster is, there's a multifamily property there now.
Okay.
Behind you is residential. And then in front of this property is commercial. It's like commercial. There's like a barber shop, which was just sold.
Yeah.
There's some sort of accountant, but I think they might live there, like a home / office. And then there's like a cigar shop or something on the other side, something like that. So it's commercial,
Okay.
basically,
Got you.
that face the road.
Okay. Anything else?
Not at this time.
Thank you for the accommodation.
Sure. Thank you, guys.
Go see you in a month.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Now we go to old business, 306 South Richardson. And I know we have multiple iterations of the plan. We've just received some this very minute, which makes it difficult to deal with adequately in a short time, but welcome to hear any discussion about the changes and the proposals that you have.
Good morning. I'm Rachel Burton from Swallowtail Architecture, and I'm the architect for this project. So we've had a lot of meetings over the 9 months, but it's actually started well before that, trying to move forward with the drainage layout, the architectural design, and of course, what trees we can we get approval to remove. And although each of these are independent, they are all interconnected. And because this site is unique, I want to talk a little bit about how we've resolved each of these pieces up until now and where we are as far as what that means for the trees. So the first is that the site slopes from 7 feet from, that would be the bottom right corner to the top left corner, which is a big grade change on a property of this size. And it's even bigger in the sense that On the bottom side of that drawing, those properties are uphill and all the water from those properties flows onto ours. So the drainage plan was a really important part of getting right with this particular site. And I want to refer you to figure 1, which is what I've given you this morning, which shows that with the town, we have developed a really robust drainage plan, and there's now a 10-foot wide easement that goes down the side of the property, most of that side, which is for a drainage easement, and there will be like a pipe put in there and it goes off towards the back.
Can you explain a little bit more about the nature of that? The construction, the depth, the acceptance of water capability?
The final drainage plan has not been done. We've had our landscape architect look at it. We've had the town look at it, and we're all in agreement that a 10-foot wide drainage easement will work for us and for the town, but the specifics of the size of the pipe, we do not yet know. It could be 24 inches, it could be 18 inches, it could be 12. We don't know. And that is because partly it depends a little bit on what our final house layout is and what the grading we can get through the site itself. So there's still a little bit unknown, except that there is now this easement that is on the property so that the town can get water from that side and then off through to the back.
Is that to be sufficient to assist in the 7-foot grade from bottom right to top left that you described in the beginning?
Correct. I mean, what we have, by putting that easement in, we are acknowledging that water will be on this property that we have to drain and that we can't just let it go onto other people's property. And so this is a plan that has come up with our consultants and the town and feel that it is comfortable.
That would compel a certain amount of fill, of course, to compel the water to head in that direction, correct? And that's an important consideration
Right.
for us because of the impact upon tree roots
Right.
with the compaction from whatever amount of fill is going to be there.
So I think that our concept is, and I'll jump ahead a little bit. We have also worked really hard to keep that elm tree, and there's a 30-foot diameter around that tree, which will be a do not touch. So the grade will remain the same and everything about that tree, and that's that green circle. So because of that, what we had originally wanted to do was create more of a courtyard feeling at the top of the site that was flat. So it was used for essentially the backyard of my clients. And we have redesigned this property so that we are going to have the slope of the land go between our buildings and along the rear, and that water will be directed towards that. The final grading plan of our site is not yet defined because we're trying to figure out what can we get approval for as far as some tree removal so that we know this is where our home can be. But in general, we have looked at this and that we are wanting to have a lot of the site grading kind of remain as is, and the house sits cut into the slope and the garage sits cut into the slope so that the rainwater goes along.
So there will not be substantial elevation change at the footprint of the house,
The house sits on a slope,
right? Slightly, yes.
so it will cut into the slope, more or less sitting on the top of the slope on the top side, and then there's a greater height to the foundation piece on the bottom side.
Right. What about fill in the region of the easement?
Within the easement, we are not, I don't fully know, to be
Right.
honest, exactly what will happen there, but we are wanting it to be very modest if it is, but I don't know the final piece.
I
of
had
that.
hoped someone from engineering would have been here to help us understand this. Oh. Bonnie. Hi.
Hello.
Good morning.
Yes, I'm not sure what exactly your questions are concerning,
Okay.
because it should be about the same elevation. I don't think there's going to be any fill. I mean, we'll have to install the pipe and the inlets to capture the water. And then our stormwater crews have gotten permission in the easement on the adjacent property to install the pipe to lead it to the big canal that runs at the back. So everything will be just channelized right there in that corner.
Okay.
But it should be around the existing grade besides installing the pipe.
How deep will the pipe be? Any idea yet?
Don't
Okay.
know yet.
The reason we were concerned about the pipe is because so many trees have to be removed to accommodate the presence of the pipe and including the live oak that we would really like to see saved. So that's one of the reasons for our concern about the pipe. I mean, we're fine with a pipe of drainage and get water off the lot and everybody be happy. But
What's those two trees that are right there in the easement?
well, it's off to the upper side of the easement, the live oak is right there.
Mhm.
That's the one we're probably most concerned about. So we were wondering was there some approach that we could have to be able to save that tree? There'd be disruption, of course, but rather than abject removal, is that absolutely necessary for the installation of the pipe? That's one of our principal questions, I believe.
Yeah, we even talked,
I think you'll note that what we have said is that we want to save that tree. But at the moment, we don't have enough information to advise us on the actual drainage plan, like
Right.
how big is that pipe, how deep?
And
But
neither,
our intention is that that tree is a tree we would like to save.
okay, that's-
And we have noted it as such as not a straight,
yeah,
yes, please remove it. And the other trees that are in that area were advised to us as being in poor condition or an invasive species, and that we can and should ask for those to be removed, and so we have.
yeah, I think we even talked about the live oak, finding some way to even go up under the root system there. I don't know if that's a possibility or not for stormwater to do something like that, or I mean, if you're talking that side, a big pipe, I think it would be tough to do, but you know.
Probably the size would be a 12 or 15 inch
rigid.
is what I'm thinking. Right, concrete, because the town also will plan on maintaining this as well. And just if it's smaller, they get clogged.
Mhm.
You know, it's
Yeah.
just the potential for it getting clogged.
But I do
But it-
just want to let you know that's not finalized. We
Right,
would
okay.
Not.
B12,
All right.
we don't know.
Right.
The other question I had also, when you put the pipe in and all, and there should be some room there that you can plant some trees, you know, later on. How does the town feel about planting trees near that drainage system? Would that be an issue?
Generally, we don't like trees near drainage
Mhm.
because the roots, you know, we'll find a way to get into it, but it can be done. I know there's, root barriers around pipes.
Right.
Is there any provision for water falling to the street side on that side of the property, or is there even a need to even think about it? Because I
I'm not-
understand that as the diagram indicates, the drainage easement begins somewhere toward the middle of the property, not quite, but it's a little bit more than that, away from the street. So what's going on from that point on to the street? Nothing in terms of town easement, drainage easement.
Probably a
Correct.
swale.
We were thinking that a swale would go there and that there would be drainage towards the street, and that there is in fact little drainage from uphill that arrives at that particular
Okay.
spot because of the home. So it would be a relatively modest amount of runoff that we're looking at. And then, of course, all the property on the street side is going to be directed to the street.
Right.
So we're anticipating that most of the water that will come on this property will be directed towards the rear where that drainage pipe will be installed.
And you all have helped with that for sure, right?
I'm
Te-
sorry.
Engineering has helped with that assessment.
Yes, yes. The owners have been wonderful working with us and the adjacent property owner to come up with this plan.
Okay. All right, well, that was our biggest concern, but it's comforting to hear that the way the house is being positioned, it won't require a lot of fill in the root zones of the trees that we most want to protect. Okay, Bonnie, thank you very much. I don't think we have any more questions. We probably will later when we go home, but
I have one question that she might help with. The house will be, where the houses will be placed, the footprint, will it have to be raised in elevation with soil? Will the house need to be built on raised soil for drainage?
I mean, it would probably need to be some kind of crawl space. I don't know if fill would need to be brought in.
Okay. Well, that's my question. Will fill need to be brought in and
There's-
compacted because
That's something that as we get approval on the site and then we're truly able to understand what the grades will be through the site, we will be able to define that. So our original thought would be that we would do an elevated slab that was flat, like adjacent to the grade on the top side, and then would have a retaining wall on the bottom side.
Right.
I don't know if that is possible structurally because of the amount of grade change. So the actual structural design of the foundation system for this home is not yet developed.
Right.
But we are aware that we have to accommodate that slope and that architecturally, we've taken that into account. We just don't yet have a structural design.
Right. And of course, what the hang up is that some of our concerns hinge upon what you do with that. And you're waiting to see what must happen. So we're sort of in a no decision zone because we're all waiting for answers. I don't know how we approach that, but that's certainly something we've got to
Difficult.
see.
that's right, very difficult. But it is encouraging that less fill will be required. Our biggest concern, if I can speak, is the protection of the root protection zone of the large sweet gum. We're happy with the efforts for the elm tree. But the sweet gum, we've not formally calculated the percent incursion into the root protection zone on that tree, but it's significant. It's got to be at least 40%, maybe even more. I don't know. Perhaps you all have a formula that can figure that out because you have all the drawings and all the square footages and everything. That's a big concern for me, and any disruption whatsoever, it doesn't matter really what it is going to be a detraction to that tree. And that's partly the reason for all these questions about what's going to happen to the ground. If there's a slab, even if it's a raised slab sitting on top of 40% of the tree protection zone, doesn't matter. Those roots are dead anyhow. So this is what we have to weigh to try and save this tree in the presence of the house next to it. And I don't know that we've comfortably come to
But no, it's
a ready decision on that. Just a couple of options. We could simply have the tree cut down and have it be mitigated. But there's not much room on the property to have trees mitigated. The only place I see really is on the street side of the easement where it terminates on the top of the property. So anyhow, these are the things we're wrestling with, and they don't have easy answers. It's we need a crystal ball to make it work. We don't have one that works.
Honestly, that's been our issue all along, is that all of these things are all interconnected.
Right.
And without some decisions on some parts, we're unable to move forward. Like, we're just in this circle of not knowing what we can do and how we can design a home on this site that will satisfy the drainage your concerns, the BAR concerns, and the zoning requirements. They're all robust requirements, and we're trying to thread that needle and figure out a solution.
Yes, and I wasn't aware of the tree that's in the area of the easement that, that y'all were concerned about, but we will definitely work with Justin and try to install a pipe somehow to where,
Which tree is that? Is that the live oak you're speaking?
I think, is that the one? Yeah,
Yeah.
because I
Okay.
wasn't sure that,
Right up against the edge of the easement in the
Okay.
backside.
yes, because that pipe can be installed, as further over from it as possible. And, I don't know at what depth, probably since that's the upper end of the drainage, it could be shallow if that would be better versus going in. I just don't know normally. with
Depends on how it's
engineering, we just put
excavated.
in- Yeah,
If it's excavated by air, with an air spade or compressor, then deeper is better, actually. But if it has to be truly excavated with equipment, then shallow may be better, or that may not be a moot, it just may be a moot issue.
yeah,
So,
But
but
just-
yeah, if you, Justin can
that we
help
would-
figure that out, exactly.
right.
So I have I think that's all the engineering questions I have, but I have a question about the coping wall, and I'm focusing on the sweet gum that the chairman brought up.
Oh, that is not a coping wall. It is simply a fence.
It's a what?
But-
A fence?
Per-
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
perhaps if I go through all the
Not a-
other
okay.
pieces and then you can have a chance to
Okay.
fully ask me
Wonderful.
about all of the items, because some of these are interconnected. And I will be addressing things like what is that in my discussion.
okay.
So I'm going to refer you to figure 2. And in this particular diagram, this was what we first received from the surveyor. And when I applied all the tree canopy sizes to it, you can see that the entire site is 100% covered. There is no spot outside a tree canopy in which we can do any home or garage. And so I'm showing that to you to really highlight how many trees there were on the site. Figure 3 is we then hired an arborist, Forrest Evans from Natural Directions, to review all the trees on site and write a report from us. And we got that report in October 23. And when we applied his recommendations, and I'm showing which trees he had marked or he had identified as eligible to be removed, either because they were in poor condition or dead, those are shown with an X. And when I removed those tree canopies, you can see it did allow us to have a space that was down the center of the property, a little more towards the top side of the drawing, which actually didn't help us that much because towards the top side of the drawing is a 15-foot setback that was a zoning setback. And so this site is zoned DMX, and because it's the transition site between the downtown core and the residential property next door, that 15-foot setback is actually a buffer that the BAR is allowed to give approval for us to encroach into, but otherwise nothing can encroach into it. So even the garage location, the driveway location had to be approved by the BAR because that buffer was meant to be a complete buffer between the commercial area of our downtown and the residential district, which it abuts to. So that is something that was identified in figure 4, which was the conceptual design submitted to the BAR. And we discussed with them what we were wanting to do. And the response was we can lightly encroach into that, like with our driveway, and we have a porte cochere, but it's not just we can shove our drive right up into it. It is a light encroachment. So that is showing figure 4. And the other piece about the zoning is that it's sort of related. The BAR requirements are that we have a detached garage in the rear. So what that means is we have a drive that needs to go all the way to the rear. So we're using up a lot of coverage in order to get that piece of both the detached garage and the drive going all the way to the rear, which is also illustrated in that figure 4. And then, so those are all the pieces that go up to the figure 4. What we then did was that we have worked extensively with Justin, with our arborist, and with others trying to figure out what is a way to thread this needle to move forward with you, so that it's going to be something that Justin felt he could stand behind and that you might agree with him, but equally things that we could achieve. So in those meetings, he had identified trees that he felt he was comfortable with, and that is shown in figure 5. And so he had identified that most of the trees that were on that top side of the drawing could be removed because they were either dead or in extremely poor condition or an invasive species. He gave us several notes about trees that he'd like us to keep. One was that 12-inch magnolia, which although it's 12 inches is a very nice tree, that we should try and keep that oak that's right on that property line and the drainage easement. He'd like us to keep that 40-inch pine. He was wanting a 30-foot do not touch inside this area for the elm. And then that little oak tree that is just adjacent to the elm, we had previously shown we'd like that little oak tree removed. He said, please keep it. And that he also said, no, you must keep the gum as well. So combined with that were also discussions that the way to achieve that was that although initially we'd been advised, please move the house back because it's a residential home and we don't want it right on the property line at the front. In order to keep all the trees that we were being asked to look at, we needed to move the house forward on the site, which gave room for that large oak tree on the rear plus the magnolia. But it also gave us a better space around the elm tree. We were also advised that as I had said previously, our original idea was we wanted to create a courtyard and put essentially a retaining wall on the property line between our property and Hayward Hudson's property so that we could create a flat lawn and have that be outside space. We realize we can't do that because we need to think about the oak, but also the other trees that are on that side. So we are not doing a retaining wall around our outside space. Within the circle of the elm tree, we're not going to do anything at all. But outside that, we will do a fence and obviously with some kind of landscape screening. Whoops. So the next figure was figure 6, which was our revised site plan, which is only slightly different than the one we submitted. And that has identified these things that we've done, which is move the house forward, relocate the pool so that it's outside of the area of the gum. We have revised exactly how our outside recreation pool area is. We're showing a path that goes to our garage that is outside the circle of our elm, and sort of little stepping stones that go to a little garden area that's on the other side of the pool. We have kept the garage almost entirely out of the tree canopy line of the magnolia and the oak tree. And so we have kept that little oak. We're keeping that gum. We'd like to keep that oak that I've told you is number 10 on the top side of the drawing. And the only tree that we cannot find a way to work around and keep is the 40-inch pine that in this particular diagram is directly in front of the garage and our driveway. And so the last figure is showing you how we just briefly considered some options. So option one was we rotated the garage and had it be a straight run in from the driveway. Even then, we can't really keep the pine. So we're able to still save the magnolia and the oak, but not the pine. If we push it back further and maybe have some gravel in our drive, we could keep the pine, but now we're too close to the oak. If we rotate it, and there are different ways to rotate it, we either can't keep the pine because we don't have enough space to back out of the garage, or if there is, then we've pushed the garage so far back into the other trees, into the corner and the magnolia, that we're not keeping them. So our thoughts were that we would like to keep the buffer more intact on the rear of the property, like to pay more attention to the trees that are along the bottom side of this site plan, and that if we need to mitigate for that pine, that we would. And lastly, I would just like to note that when Forrest gave us that first plan or his advice, he commented, and I'm quoting, "Tree number 8, 36 pine, D grade, poor condition. This tree has a large area of decay towards the top of the canopy. This is most likely the result of rustiform rust cancer. This area, although not affecting the overall health of the tree, is a weak structural section of the tree. And it is, in my opinion, that the poor condition of this tree means that it should be removed."
We saw the letter.
So with that, I'm open to any further questions you have about our architectural design and our approach to how we can save as many of the trees as we can on this property.
I'm impressed with the effort that you went through, even just for the garage. The shuffling around like that for that one tree. So yes, that was, I thought that was the whole thing has apparently been quite a good exercise in moving and accommodating. I just have one question that's not totally related. The buffer that the ARB requires, you mentioned was the demarcation between a commercial zone and a residential zone.
It's,
Where is the commercial zone?
so technically this property, which is zoned DMX, is eligible to be a commercial use.
Oh,
And the property next door is, and so what I had, when I listed out our changes of what we've done, we did push further into that buffer zone. We're hoping that the BAR will approve that further encroachment
of the driveway.
of the driveway and the porte cochere. But we don't yet know, but we did encroach further into that to again move our house away from all of the trees that were on that property line between us and Hayward Hudson's home.
You had mentioned it earlier, and I just wanted to be sure I was sure what I heard. Tree number 4. It's that big pine tree, that is in the, buffer zone, but
Right,
it also is on the edge of, maybe more than a little bit, the edge of the driveway.
right.
You mentioned that Justin had said something about really wanting to save that, and I wonder if, I cannot see from this diagram whether there's
So,
an X in there or anything.
yeah, so tree number 4 was identified by Forrest as 43.5 inch pine, C grade, fair condition. My concern for this tree is, given the height and removal of the other trees around that because they're dead, or in very poor condition, that there would be an increased risk of wind throw on that tree.
Okay. We've had. Go ahead.
Oh, I just, yeah, that's, in my experience, as an arborist, that's really not a concern. It's just really not. That happens with some frequency. So I would not be concerned about wind throw because other trees were removed at
Only
all.
the one.
And-
Only one tree that would be removed, that other pine
Right.
tree is half dead.
Right. But let me say that I absolutely commend you and the the property owners for making this effort to save those trees and to move things around. That's incredibly admirable. And it's what this is a sort of, the sort of, scope we were looking for at the outset to let's look at this and see what we can do. And we've come very close to what I had hoped would happen. I will tell you, and I'm very pleased about the way you've tried to manipulate the garage. I know Forrest very well, and he's a very good arborist. I do have an issue. I disagree with him about the oak tree that I just discussed. And in my conversations with Forrest, because I called him, he can't say that that's fusiform rust. I mean,
No, and he did agree that he said it was most likely, but he doesn't know.
right. He didn't see the evidence of fusiform, and he can't really attest to the structural integrity of that place because he didn't go up there to see. Because it's dark does not mean that it's structurally unsound. However, I just wanted that to be known for the record. But I like what you've done, and I'm willing to consider removing a line for the removal of that tree. But I don't know where we go next. I'm very pleased with what you've done. Am I at a point where I can say, finally, yeah, we're there. In my mind, we're very close. I'm not sure that we're all the way there or not. I'd have to think about it. And maybe it depends on what's decided with the drainage.
I mean, from our point of view, in order for us to be able to move forward, we need to be able to go back to the BAR and say, you have reviewed these tree requests and that we have worked with the town for the drainage easement. And so that we can get permission from them, yes, you can encroach a little bit more into that buffer. And then what we'd like to do is work through our drainage plan, because like everything is all hinged together and we can't like complete something in its entirety to answer all of your questions without some indication that, yes, we're going down the right road. So if we know that we're going down the right road and that the house and the kind of size of where it is and where our driveway is something that you can work with, and that the attempts that we have made in order to really address the health of the trees and the saving of trees where we can, then we can then consider, what are we going to do with our foundation plan? How are we going to resolve our drainage? Like, what exactly does that look like? And we can't do that like in any detail except just conceptually until we have an idea, like, yes, this is where our house is, and yes, this is kind of what we can get approval for.
But similarly, I might be willing to support a tentative approval based upon how you manage, how the drainage plan is managed and the foundation plan is managed. If that were to become something in my mind horribly wrong, then I might have to retract. But if we can agree to that we can work together on it, and we can and tentative approval will give you what you need to move forward.
Right.
That's possibly
So
something I can do.
I would call all those things that what you're looking for is really, what is our plan in a little more detail, say, or for that gum tree? Like, what does our arborist devise? And then how are we solving that architecturally and drainage wise so that we're allowing that tree to have, the best possible chance of thriving after it's had obviously some disruption in one corner.
We can, and it was written in the preparation for this meeting that Justin has recommended that a tree care plan be developed for that
Yes.
tree. There is no way around the fact that the house, whatever kind of foundation there is, whatever kind of anything there is not going to challenge it in a similar way. So I don't know that the house foundation is much that we can deal with in terms of changing or recommending or accommodating the sweet gum. I don't see, I mean, if it's going to be there, it's going to be there in a fixed way. And if it's not going to be requiring a lot of fill, the drainage issue is a separate issue, but again, the drainage issue affects our concerns mostly with respect to that one tree in the corner, the live oak.
Yeah.
Stormwater says, and engineering says, you gotta have a pipe, you gotta drain to the back of the property. We can't interfere with that. I don't believe, so, but that's the only thing, and then the description of an effort to save that tree has been made by engineering. I don't know that we can ask for much more than that. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know all the rules, when it gets down. This is a very different kind of situation than we usually face, and I will reiterate what Danny just said about the detail and the concentration of effort to accommodate the existence of the trees. So I don't know, so a management care plan for the trees, I think, is imperative. Because that was we just cut it down and then try and compensate for it, or do we give it a chance? And if it dies, then we have to have some kicking clause that then it'd be mitigated, and there'd have to be a time frame on that, and there are ordinance regulations for that. So that's those, for me, those are the major, and tree four. I would dearly like to see tree 4 saved, even though you might have to move around a little bit for that driveway.
I mean, we'd be happy to with what we can for that tree. Like, as I said, the owners like that tree, and our intention is not to remove it.
When you're talking about the live oak,
That live oak.
I'm talking about the big pine toward the street.
Oh, the big
Big
pine.
number 4.
Yeah,
Oh, number
driveway.
4. I honestly don't see how we can save that, because it's like, I can't bend the driveway up around it enough to be able to clear it. I can't come further, like, to the south of the page to clear it. Like, I just don't see how I could rework that drive.
What is
in-
what are the confines of the driveway?
Do you mean how wide is it?
Yes, and what are the lines?
So it's 12 feet wide, and it's what you're seeing, that dotted line around it is a porte cochere, so that the owners can stop their car, unload the groceries, and go into their home, because they've got a rear
Right,
detached garage and they want to be able to get their groceries into their home. So we've got a porte cochere there with steps up to a side door. So if I move the garage into the lot, which would be the easiest way to avoid that tree, now I have to move the house.
no,
So
no,
now I'm closer to the gum.
how? Well, where does the driveway on the opposite side end, the boundary? How much are you wishing to encroach into the setback?
So I think what you see on that diagram, and I'm sorry, I don't know if I can read that, but I think we're saying that we've got 7 foot something from the end of the site, property line to the edge of the porte cochere is it 7 feet? I'm sorry, I can't.
Like I said,
Thank you, 7 foot 9 inches.
But how far are you going into the setback area,
Well, you can see our setback is 15 feet.
right?
So it's 7, I'm sorry, I can't do it
Yeah.
in my head.
below 7 feet.
Yeah. And so we have pushed the drive further in. It didn't used to be in our original submission to the BAR. We were a good 3-4 feet out.
Right. I
And
remember.
so we're now half our driveway
Hmm.
is in. So I honestly I don't know how I can solve that to keep that tree number 4. And if it's a tree that we can mitigate, we'd love to look at that, but I just don't see how I can fit all the pieces on the site that we need to comply with every other piece of the zoning, the BAR, the drainage, et cetera, and keep that one tree.
Yeah, and that's been your challenge all along.
All along, we've had really, really, many interconnected restrictions that we're trying to work within.
And the size of the lot doesn't help.
No, it's not a very wide lot. So I don't have elbow room. You know, in another case, I could have, you know, gone right up to the property line. But I can't.
I've got a question about the elm, that courtyard. I guess that's just gonna be a lawn area right there.
It's going to be a lawn, and what we've looked at is we've made our porch a little bit bigger than we first had because that's now really the outside space. We've relocated where the pool is, which is sort of like an above ground little lap pool thing. And then we've got stepping stones so that it's, again, not disturbing the grade, and it will go to a little patio area in the lawn as just simply a suggestion of what that is. So we are no longer trying to create like a backyard.
Right. And tell me about the fencing around the courtyard area.
I'm not sure exactly what that might look like. It might look like a wrought iron fence. It will be a fence.
It's something that'll be minimal as far as
Yes.
disturbance.
And there
around.
are many requirements within the BAR of the kinds of things that we look for. So it will be something that is architecturally appropriate for the historic district.
Okay,
And then there could be some additional landscaping that would be done with planting.
right. I mean, it'd be nice to see some mulched areas around the elm and the oak if
Agreed.
it's saved and
Agreed.
just, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and the fence itself will be, and when we say fence, so what I'm looking at, I want to be sure that there's not going to be any excavation for a foundation.
No.
Okay, so it'll be set in
We're
piers and something?
literally looking at the kind of fence that you see in the historic district that
Okay,
it could be wood, it could be wrought iron, but it's within all of the design guidelines that the BAR has recommended as the appropriate kind of a fence. And that's what we're looking at.
wonderful. And then the walkway that goes from the front of the house to the courtyard near the pool, what material is that? Is that concrete or something
I
impervious?
was thinking it would be like a gravel path.
Okay.
And that it was really just meant to be like a little garden path that goes from the front door.
Wonderful.
And it could be, there's a few steps down from the porch onto grade and then it, you know, curves
Okay.
back through, again, probably through landscaping.
Good.
Has BAR approved encroachment on the setback zone?
They haven't, and we had originally thought we should go back to the BAR first before coming to you to say, yes, we do approve of encroaching further. And we were recommended, don't do that, come to you first
Well-
and then take it to them. So we're
Chicken and egg, as you can see.
agreed.
Um,
And so we followed the advice we were given and we have not submitted it back to the BAR. And so that is still needing to be approved and
Right.
we haven't got that from
What would
them.
happen if they didn't grant you the incursion to the setback zone?
I honestly don't know. I mean, what I am hoping is that from the BAR's point of view, the design of this home is very appropriate for this area. And it's a 1.5-story home. And the side elevations we have revised since we'd previously submitted, and they're frankly much prettier. And so we're really hoping that the scale of the house and the better fit that we've done with our revised design into the historic district will mean that they'll say yes. Will they? Is fingers crossed.
That's the
don't know.
only thing you really require yet of them is the corrective encroachment in the setback zone.
Yes, and I mean, they have to approve the architecture.
Well, yes,
And the layout of the site, but yes, that is something that in particular, we're asking them, will you give us permission to do that?
so they haven't tentatively approved any of those other things.
We had previously shown them the design of the home, which as I said, was a 1.5-story home with sort of like a 1-story piece behind and a 1-story garage. So they saw that conceptual design with a less encroachment into that setback area and they went, yes, you're going down the right road. This house is very appropriate for this area. And yes, we'll give you that approval. And we're hoping that because we've actually got a nicer design architecturally with our work that we've done, that they will say, okay.
Mhm.
We just don't know. We're just hoping.
Justin, what are your feelings about our accommodation of the accommodation for the sweet gum tree as it stands now?
I think when we did our site visit, we were assuming that that was a concrete coping wall that would require excavation,
Mhm.
some sort of footer. So I
Right.
think that, having it just be a fence, that helps with the encroachment as well as you mentioned being above ground pool. So that will lower the amount of excavation needed in that area. And then that area not changing grade where the courtyard is, that should help quite a bit as well. So it's, the level of encroachment isn't as much as we had initially
Mhm.
thought. So I think that helps. And if that in conjunction with an arborist care plan, I think could be sufficient for, for that gum tree in that corner.
All right. If they, okay, you don't know what they're gonna do if they, I was gonna suggest if they don't allow you to infringe upon the other zone, that we could keep the tree for, but that becomes irrelevant because you don't know, what will happen then. Any other discussion? Any other thoughts?
The only, just a minor thing I wanted to ask, just the overhead utility, is it gonna come overhead, the power to the house, or is it gonna be brought underground, or you don't know that yet? That's again, yeah.
I have not even thought about that.
All right, I just, sometimes when it's underground, you encroach on some of the trees, but
Yeah.
I don't think that's a major concern at this time.
So correct me if I'm wrong, the trees currently being requested to be removed are, I don't have the numbers in front of me. The ones that matter was the water oak on the side of the property adjacent to the elm, which we're not comfortable removing. We don't feel it's necessary. There's an effort to save the live oak. So again, I don't have, there's not a recent drawing with X's on it. And if there are, unless this is the most recent in front of me. I can't hardly read that one. Is this the oak tree that's right next to elm tree? Is that the one that we
Yeah.
we
Well, it's like
discussed?
in the Arborist report, it says poor form.
Right.
If that helps.
So the best way to word this motion, if I make one or you make one, is to include the number of the tree numbers that we do approve to be removed.
Right.
And to me that, and again, with the discussion about the live oak, and being stuck between a rock and a hard place with tree committee and the engineering department, as far as the need to, remove it. There is tree number 8,
Yeah.
is requested and and that request stands. Tree number 4. Those are the only two that I think we would consider removal of. Correct me if I'm wrong, folks.
So you said 8 and 4?
8 and 4.
But what about the 40-inch pine? That's in the middle of our driveway, right?
That's
beside-
tree number 8.
That's tree number 8.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, by
I-
the garage, that's tree
so
number
because
8.
I thought he said that tree was actually the live oak.
No, the live oak's way up top on,
Yeah.
I don't know the number.
Yeah.
I need my glasses, but you pointed to the live oak was pointed to on the top there. Oh, there's also tree number 3. Let's talk about tree number 3 for a second. We're gonna do this tree by tree. That's the one that was claimed to have storm damage. It's a big pine.
Yeah.
Justin, your assessment on tree number 3?
I think it was, I believe I had a C grade rating on it. There was some damage. It wasn't a perfect specimen tree. I think the arborist report was a little harsh on that tree as far as grading. But I graded it more as a C grade tree with some structural, issues with it.
I remember, I'm trying to remember it, but I recall the part of the top being blown out.
Yeah,
Is that
that's right.
correct?
Right?
Yeah.
Storm damage.
It said it might have been hit by lightning as well. I'm trying to recall if I
Right.
saw any kind of a streak going down the side.
We didn't see a streak, but we did notice that the top had been,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any problem with that one personally.
I know, it's just, I hate to see him forego, you know where I stand on that.
Yeah, but
So the trees that we actively are considering are tree 3, 4, 8. And I guess our hands are tied on the live oak, which number I can't see. What's the number of the live oak tree?
Yeah.
And that's sort of in a different category. Uh, I hate to see that big pine tree come down, but I really appreciate everything that you all have done in terms of accommodating everybody else, particularly the difficult task of accommodating root protection zones. And a lot, as you pointed out, is one big tree protection zone when you look at it. So anyhow, I'm repeating myself. You ready for a motion?
yeah, well, let me try this as a motion and see what happens. So I move that we approve the removal of trees 3, 4, and 8. And that if the drainage easement cannot be constructed without without putting the live oak tree number 10, at severe risk. If it can't be done, then give the arborist the approval to grant that tree be removed. Now, and I'm saying that only so that we don't have to have a second meeting.
Come back, yeah. I second that.
Any more last minute thoughts before we vote?
No, sir.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank
Really
you for-
appreciate
Well, thank you for the hard work and good thought,
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you
you.
for
and
very
to
much.
the applicant as well.
Great job. Mr. Hudson.
I don't have a clear understanding of the trees that are to be removed on the property line that I share.
None. There might be, they're not even at one at the corner, which is on the street corner on your property side. At one time was speculated to be removed and it's just not. The only trees are on the other side or all away from your property line. And much effort has been made to protect the root protection zone of those very same trees, particularly that elm tree.
I know that, people who have not lived here for a long time want to cut down the pine trees, but I tell you, it's been my experience that when those big pine trees come down, they actually create a sinkhole that's very difficult to deal with. And I think we should make more of an effort to maintain and retain those grand pines because they live a lot longer than people think, even in damaged condition. Somerville has just lost its tree cover. during my lifetime, and it's a shame.
We're trying to save as much as we can.
No, you are. I really appreciate the perseverance of the tree committee. Because I commend you for taking all the time to do what you do. And I thank you for that.
Thank you. Any other items of business, questions, last minute thoughts?
Yeah, I had a question. I was just looking over the minutes, the agenda, excuse me, but on, new business number 2, Smythe Drive, were we supposed to do any kind of vote on the Willow Oak, or was that already approved at staff level?
That was approved at staff level.
Okay.
I guess technically, it would have been reviewed again by you. Yeah, it does need a vote. Yeah,
It does.
yeah, once it comes to tree board, it overrules the staff level.
Okay.
review. Stuff that has been approved at staff level, you just have to reapprove it.
Okay.
Good job, Roy. I move that we also approve at 212 Smythe Avenue or Street, the removal of a willow oak in addition to the removal of a sweet gum.
Second.
He seconded.
Oh, that's right. Okay. All those in favor of the motion? I'm sitting here sleeping.
Aye.
Opposed? Do I have a motion for adjournment?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned. I should have voted.